Somalia. But the drone strikes of the United States through AFRICOM, which is housed on the continent of Africa by different African countries. There have been, Donald Trump announced it when, 2 or 3 days after he won? Just a few days after he won the presidency a few months ago, one of his first acts was to bomb Somalia. We came here and we told you he has already bombed Somalia. So regardless of what you're hearing, he's saying, he's going to end all unnecessary wars and America's forever wars. Somalia was definitely not on that list, and Somalia was bombed within few days of him gaining the presidency or regaining the presidency. Another thing is that all the presidents have been bombing Somalia, and they're treating Somalia in the way they treat Haiti. They're doing this, remember, the Haitian Revolution, the fact that Haiti is the first African country to set the standard of overthrowing the enslaver, the colonizers. And so Haiti is continually punished for that, to send a message to the rest of us that don't you dare fight for freedom. Don't you dare even talk about independence and beyond independence, republicanism and the rest of it. You know how it goes. So Haiti has been punished forever. Now here we have a situation where on the continent of Africa, since Black Hawk Down, if you remember that, I'm not quite remembering the year, but since that happened, every single U.S. government has been bombing Somalia. It doesn't make the news. Why? We report on it here in this space, but generally, as a nation, we don't report on that here. The global media doesn't report on that. Why? But even as we speak, in the time since the U.S. has provided weapons and support to Somalia 43 times already. And remember when we say bomb, remember Donald Trump said one of the bunker busters that they use in Somalia, that it went deep on the earth and ISIS was no more. But they continue to use these bunker busters. In Somalia, these bombs that are going way under the earth for I do not know why. We're not, well, I know why. But this is a situation that on the continent of Africa now with Somalia. Donald Trump continues to bomb Somalia non-stop. They are telling us to look at Iran. We look at Iran. They tell us to look at Gaza. We should look at Iran. We should look at Gaza. Everywhere they point, we look. But sometimes we should look in places they're not pointing and for which the information is available. And Somalia is being bombed many times with some serious bunker bombs. Donald Trump himself told us a few days after he went into office, he said, we bombed Somalia, and this is the kind of bomb we used, and it goes deep. We're bombing the caves. And even today they're saying they're bombing the caves. But then he told us when he bombed the caves, he got rid of ISIS, because he said ISIS is in Somalia. Now, Al-Shabaab is running amok in Somalia. But interestingly enough, Al-Shabaab seems to have that free reign in Somalia. For what reason? For what reason? In the same way, we see Jenim with that free reign in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, in what are the other countries? I'm leaving out. But in West Africa, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Jenim. Remember the name. Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Jenim. That is a terror organization that's creating havoc in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, in the Cameroon, in Benin, across Africa. And you wonder, how come? They're heavily funded. they represent the amalgamation of, if you recall, we talked about this a few years ago, of many conglomerate of smaller terrorist organizations, including Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. It's interesting because Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb was created by the United States government. In the Sahel region, remember when Hillary Clinton came out and told us about Al-Qaeda in the Sahel? And remember we came here and told you there is no such thing, because there's investigative journalists who looked into it and found damning information that this was a group created by the United States for the very purpose of overthrowing governments on the continent of Africa and to create disorder in that region, in the Sahel, which they have done. And every single day, hundreds of people are being killed in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Mali, and other countries, bordering countries. This is basically what is happening as we speak. So here we are, having to come to terms with the fact that France and the United States and other Western powers are still creating havoc on the continent of Africa through terrorism. And when they're not doing that, they're bombing Africa into smithereens. And this is crazy madness. Crazy madness. Not much reporting on it. Why? Why? That is a question. And then the answer probably will reveal a whole lot.
A matter of months. This is according to the nuclear watchdog, and it's Rafael Grossi, who is a head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who has said that the U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian sites last weekend had caused severe but not total damage. And he's contradicting Donald Trump's claim that Iran's nuclear facilities were totally obliterated. These people want war. And the IAEA, it surprises me, but not really. Because usually they will stand by their investigations, which is to say, no, there's no, Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon and so on. But now we have whose pocket he's in or who's in his pocket, whose pocket is he in, I don't even know. But he's come out, and this is what the IAEA is saying. We understand, and thank you for sending me a note, because I haven't read this yet, Kwame Pianke. So I see where you've sent me a note saying that the IAEA, that Iran has walked away from the IAEA. Now, this must be on the back of this report that I saw last night. So I'm going to go check that to see the sources and then to have a conversation about that. Another thing that we need to pay some attention to is a news coming out of the United States about water quality across the United States. So the CDC is this morning admitting that tap water across the United States contain arsenic, lead, PFAS, and radon, with removal requiring expensive filtration systems. And these have to be paid for by the people themselves. So this is a story that is developing in the United States. They say this is worse than Flint, that Flint was just a tip of the iceberg. And EWG data show that 143 million Americans are drinking forever chemicals daily. In Washington, D.C., for example, they're saying D.C. wastes billions on foreign aid and instead of modernizing the water system. So this is something that is breaking in the United States. You know, somebody just texted me to ask me to talk a little bit more about JNIM, Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, JNIM. I will do it. I have been talking about them. Maybe you haven't recognized that I have, because I have been saying JNIM, and I've been asking who's funding JNIM. I have not necessarily been saying Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, and so probably you weren't paying attention. But it is what I can tell you about what they've done so far in terms of 2025. The number of JNIM attacks in Burkina Faso, they have been striking, and from all that my research is showing me is that they've had since 2025 over 240 individual attacks in Burkina Faso alone. So between January and say May, end of May, we see the attacks of JNIM on Burkina Faso doubling over the same period in 2024. It tells you that France is behind it, and allegedly. But it tells you so the question I've been posing in this space is, who is funding JNIM? Who is funding JNIM? This is a massive terrorist organization, inclusive of Al-Qaeda. And remember, Al-Qaeda is now the official Western recognized head, president, prime minister, ministers of government of Syria. This we must bear in mind. Remember, Donald Trump went into the Middle East recently. We saw him shaking hands with the new prime minister of Syria. Well, the new prime minister of Syria is a former head of Al-Qaeda. He just took off his turban and his galabeah, and he has put on his jacket and tie, and now he's shaking Donald Trump's hand. There's a reason for that, you see. They're all in Syria. Turkey and Erdogan, more than anybody else, is in Syria. There is a peace among thieves in that region, and this is why, and Iran, that is going to hold. I'm not looking for war. I'm not asking for war. But if you look at the situation, it's a powder keg. It's waiting to blow, and I don't know what else is going to happen. But this is basically it, because they have gone in and they have disrupted and disturbed every single, in their words, democratically elected government in the region. Standing on the outskirts is Egypt. I don't know what Egypt is up to. Egypt seems as if it is... I can't say the things that I want to say. But anyway, let me move on. We're seeing where there's a peace treaty between the DRC and Rwanda. If you remember, a few months ago, I came here and I told you that the DRC had reached out to Donald Trump and asked him to mediate in the ongoing conflict, war, violence that's happening in the region. And that Donald Trump had agreed that he would meet and talk to the DRC, but only if the DRC would give in return rare earth minerals. Now, Donald Trump didn't have to say that, because the DRC said, come in and help us to quell this situation, and we'll give you rare earth minerals. So he went in, and now we're hearing that a peace treaty has been signed between Rwanda and the DRC. Rwanda is the cancer of the region. And Paul Kagame, as I've said in this space many times, is a criminal. So M23, which is just as bad as JNIM, if not worse, they use sex as a weapon of war. And we're going to be talking about some of that this morning in the program, in terms of conflict, sexual violence used in conflicts. But now we're seeing where the DRC has now, we're hearing that there's a peace treaty, a peace accord that has been signed between Rwanda and the DRC. I'm not optimistic. Regardless, the U.S. is already in the region. Remember, we told you they went down there the other day. They're building a train line from Angola straight to the mines of the DRC. Joe Biden went there and didn't even know where he was. He was so out of it. I mean, one of his clones went there. The last thing he did as a president was to go into Angola because they are now building a transportation train line system all the way from, it goes from the mines in Congo and it comes down through Uganda, it goes into Angola, and it empties out into the sea. Why does it empty to the sea? It really means that it empties out into the ships that are parked there to take out Africa's minerals. We see an ongoing problem there because China has been there forever. China has been there through the violence and the crime and the warfare and the sexual violence and the viciousness, the machete killings of so many of our people. China has been there. China has been there. So too now is the United States in a very, very large way, because in addition to the train line, they now have the permission of the DRC to come in and take this. So this peace treaty is not going to hold. It's not going to hold. This has been going on in this region for a very long time. And Angola was not at the table. So Uganda was not at the table. This is not just a one-man thing. It's not just M23. It's not just... and if it is we know it's M23 as one of the terrorist organizations. And that means that Uganda had to be at that table. Because M23 is Uganda and it is Paul Kagame, Rwanda. So many of our people have gone into Rwanda and they are living the life. And they're sending back videos how lawyers are imprisoned and exiled. They don't take time to find that out. They're just living their lives in Rwanda and sending you all kinds of pictures and videos to say, come to Rwanda. Or keep them to yourself. By the way, stop sending me videos of Rwanda. I am mad as hell about the videos you're sending me of Rwanda. I do not need to see any. And anybody else who send me a video of how nice Rwanda is, I'm going to block that person. Later on this morning, I want to talk a little bit about how the U.S. Army has launched a website so that tech bros can sign up to serve. But I want to go deeper to talk about Detachment 201. Detachment 201. Pay attention. Detachment 201 is the face and the actualizing of technocracy and transhumanism. Look at it in the meantime before we come back to it. We're hearing, on another note, we're hearing that the U.S., that Israel had planned a false flag operation on U.S. soil if Donald Trump hadn't bombed Iran. This is a story that's exclusive to media in Iran, but others are reporting on it. You can follow that up to see what's happening there. We talk about drone strikes in Somalia. Well, we need to talk about the drone strikes in Haiti. The Haitian authorities are dropping bombs on the Haitian people. Drone strikes. They say they are bombing the gangs. 200 people, 300 people dead at a time. They're dropping bombs on Haiti. This is happening in our region, on our back door. If they can drop bombs on Haiti, don't you think they can drop bombs on you? When they were dropping bombs on Libya, did you think Syria and even Iran, to be extreme, recognized that they were next? When they bombed, when they piggybacked on the uprising in Tunisia, when the young brother, university graduate, couldn't get any job and he set himself on fire and it caused an uprising in Tunisia. They saw this as an opportunity to take out all of the governments in the Middle East. And they created something called the Arab Spring. We did almost 2 years of programming on that in this space to say this is not organic. This is not the people. This is the United States government, the European Union, Israel, and others, Western governments, who were involved in creating this mayhem in African countries, especially North African countries, so that they can claim not just the countries, but the waterways, the minerals, and a greater Israel. So this is the situation. I'll come back to some of this later on, but I do have to take a quick break and then go live to Burkina Faso. Legal and Constitutional Affairs, that hour between 7 and 8 o'clock, brought to you courtesy of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. We're going to go live to Burkina Faso.
22nd.
Okay. I hear you. I know there's a story behind that.
Yeah, I missed the flight.
I thought as much.
I thought the flight was leaving Sunday and the flight was leaving Saturday, and people was telling me that, are you coming to the airport? And I said, yeah. And I'm thinking that they're thinking about Sunday and they're thinking about Saturday, and the flight is leaving from Atlanta, and I'm in Indianapolis, and so there was no way that I could make it. And so we had to rescheduled, and I flew in from Indianapolis. So that's the story.
Yes, I could hear that there was a story there. Well, ancestors intervened, and here you are. So
They did successfully. Thank you.
So who have you met with so far, and what have you gained in the fact-finding mission? What knowledge have you gained?
We've met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We have met with the president of the the Sahel Alliance Commission president. That's the organization that has been created by Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso to guide them in becoming one nation and to spread that message across the African continent. Mm-hmm. And what we have accomplished is communication.
Yes.
We have furthered the relationship to where is that we can move forward from this. This is the beginning. We came here on a listening tour and to learn how we as Pan-Africanists can permeate, spread, cause an epidemic of the Pan-African philosophy among Africans in the West and beyond. And so with the epicenter of the Pan-Africanist thought being here in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, we are blessed to have the opportunity to talk to the leadership so that we can come up with a common game plan, so we're all on a common page, and so that we're moving commonly, because Pan-Africanist thought is the thought of the future that will help us to take our rightful place in the world order of things.
I'm really happy to hear that you have met with people that far, principals within the government, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, etc. Are you expecting to meet with Ibrahim Traore at any time?
We're working on that. That is being worked on.
Yes.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs is, and the President of the Alliance. Yes, and the U.S. Ambassador. I'm getting input from everybody.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Is good.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
One thought it's not good.
Yes,
yes. And boy, you know, the giant of this delegation just walked in the door. So evidently he's feeling better. So hopefully we can bring him on.
All right, that's Baba. Yes. That's Baba Mukasa. Well, let me say hello if he's okay to say hello, or do you need him to settle down?
Hello, Africans. My name is Mukasa.
Mukasa Baba Riggs. Welcome to the Africa Forum once again. It's a pleasure to be talking to you again, Baba Mukasa. Leading a delegation like that. How important is it for you to be leading this delegation at this time to Burkina Faso? What does this mean for you?
It means that our people are rising up all over the world, saying no to imperialism, no to colonialism, no to racism, and we're trying to unite our people. And it's clear that we're returning home like Marcus Garvey taught us to do.
Yes. And just to remind our listeners who Baba Mukasa is, we're talking about one of the principals, one of the activists on the ground with SNCC back in the day, the person who coined, when we say black power, we owe this to Baba Mukasa. Baba Mukasa, remind us of that quick. Where my sister Olimata Tal is standing by, and also our brother Baba Mukasa, Mukasa Rix, you might know him as. He's no stranger to the space. Are you there, Oli?
I'm here, but I got representatives for Baba Mukasa. He's not going to be able to do the interview this morning. He's not feeling good.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, welcome to you, Ole, and to the representatives of Baba Mukasa who are with you there in Burkina Faso. First of all, Ole, why are you all in Burkina Faso?
Walked 250 miles through Mississippi with Dr. King, and we had to fight. And on that march, we said black power, and what we meant by black power was that it's time for us to go on the offense and start fighting for our liberation and not beg but demand. And when we said black power, we said we want our liberation, we want our freedom, we want our land, we want our nation. We are African people, and that we'll never be free until Africa is free. And we began to fight. And at that time, we started burning down the United States, throwing bricks and balls, and just saying no to what they had been doing to us for the last 500 years. And that's why we're here today, is black power. And we realize that you can only have black power when you have land. Land is the basis of power. Mm-hmm. Africa is our land. And when we unite Africa, when we liberate Africa, when we run the British, the French, the United States, and the French and all these other people off our land and unite Africa, then we can have black power. Black power is land. Black power is a nation. Black power, when we build a worldwide army, when we come together as an African people and carry the march, carry the freedom that Marcus Garvey taught us to do. And this is why we're here today. And the people here in Burkina Faso, they are nothing but the children of Marcus Garvey. He taught us all. Everywhere you go in the world, Marcus Garvey has touched it. And I want to thank Marcus Garvey and the people of Jamaica for being great leaders in this movement of liberation, this great movement of Pan-Africanism, this great movement of one unified socialist Africa. Africa must unite. And that we're oppressed all over the world, and we must destroy capitalism, imperialism, and Zionism. They are doing us the same way you see them doing the Palestinians. They're doing it in the Congo. They're doing it in South Africa. They're doing it in United States of America. They're doing it all throughout the Caribbean. Our people are the hungriest people in the world. Our people are the jobless people in the world. Our people are in deep trouble. Mm-hmm. And that's why we must crush imperialism all over the world. And that's why we're here in Burkina Faso, because the young people has risen up and now showing great leadership. And we just came here to show solidarity and let them know that Burkina Faso is the leadership and the vanguard movement of what's going to take place all over the world. Our fight is not for Burkina Faso. Our fight is for Africa. Burkina Faso is just the beginning of what we got to do. And we tell the world that Burkina Faso is good, but until all of Africa, every inch of our land is free and liberated, we are not satisfied. The independence of Burkina Faso is meaningless until the independence of all of Africa is liberated and free and united. We're fighting for a united Africa, and that Burkina Faso, Brother Toure, speak for all of African people. He's the voice. He's the voice of Marcus Garvey. He's the voice of Malcolm X. He's the voice of Patrice Lumumba. He's the voice of all the people, oppressed people of the world. deaf to imperialism, deaf to colonialism, deaf to all the forces that oppress our people. We're going to free our people. We're going to feed our people. We're going to clothe our people. We're going to put our people in houses, and everything that's in our way, we're going to move it out the way by any means necessary.
By
Black
any
power.
means, make it plain, brother. Make it plain. You know, Oli, I do have to take the United States, sponsored by Malik Zulu Shabazz of the Black Panther movement, New Black Panther movement, are now in Burkina Faso, and they're there on a fact-finding mission, a listening mission, if you will. So we have been talking to them about their experiences and why they're there and so on. Oli?
Yes.
And so you have with you next, Oli, as we said earlier, make it plain.
I have with me Mama Queen Harriet Abubakar. She's with the Nation of Islam and the Lost Found Nation of Islam. Her husband is Silas Muhammad, and she was a personal friend to Malcolm X, and she is the daughter of Elijah Muhammad.
Wow, we're honored to have you in the space, Queen Mother. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and I'm really enjoying this grouping we have here in Burkina Faso.
What a gathering.
They are waking us up, and we are waking them up.
Yes. And talk to us about that. What are you feeling there? What are you learning? What are you seeing and touching?
Well, the first thing I noticed is that the spirit of the Traoré here seems to be in the air, and it's infiltrating all of us. And it's that spirit that's causing this movement to come together.
Yes.
And I hope that continues to spread throughout Africa, and I think it will, because it's a moment whose time has come.
Yes.
And we're going to continue to help them with what they're doing. We're asking them, how can we help? And they are going to give us feedback and programs that will allow us to help. That's our purpose for being here.
Yes. And what have you heard so far? I know you're waiting on the official feedback, the team and Malik Zulu Shabazz, if necessary, to assist.
Well, I've noticed here the attitude of the people, which is the first thing you need in any kind of movement.
Yeah.
And it is alive and well. And I've seen a lot of potential here in the area around us.
Yes.
But they do need the help that we can give them. And that's what we want to do, give help.
A lot of people
are trying to get our own strength in the United States, but we have affirmed to them that when we do get our substance, we will bring it back to help develop Africa.
Yes, yes. And in terms of the conversations with the government officials, how have you been received?
I would say we've been received very warmly, especially yesterday. It was really nice.
Yes.
And I see growth from it. The president of the entire Sahel region, he was very positive, very full of energy. He asked me what did I think about his interview with the United Nations. And I thought it was great, but the interpreter did not give forth in her interpretation the spirit that he held in his person. That's what was missing.
Yes, yes.
But he is doing an excellent job, and he's very helpful himself. And just based on his reaction to us, and he said that we were his shield. He felt that way, that we in the diaspora, standing by the side of what they're trying to do, presented a shield that is actually keeping them alive and going.
Yes, yes.
That was quite a compliment to us.
Wow, this is excellent work. This is ancestral duty that you're on.
Yes.
I see you standing in the spirit of Elijah Muhammad, standing in the spirit of the nation of Islam, and I feel that.
That's right.
Yeah. How important is that for you and to you?
Pardon me?
How important is this for you to
It's very
stand?
important. I have been under the the wing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad since I was 15 years old. Yeah. I lost my mother at 16, and he stepped right in and helped finish raising me. Mm-hmm. And I helped him build what he did in the United States.
Yes.
And that knowledge and information and spirit that he gave us spread to the rest of us, and now it's spreading to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this we're going to be learning so much from you and from the team that's there. Looking forward to when you've finished this first phase of the fact finding, to hear the report and to see how we can be part of this. They call it a renaissance, but this movement, this change that is happening on the continent of Africa. Thank you so much, my sister, Queen Mother.
I thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Right.
I have another brother that is going to speak. He's Brother Sapiwe. He's one of the diplomats on the entourage, and he's also originally started with the Rastafari movement.
Mm-hmm.
Greetings, revolutionary greetings to you and to all of our comrades in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and internationally. Greetings.
Greetings,
My name is Sipiwe Baleka. Mm-hmm. I have been sent on this delegation as a special envoy because of my links to various movements, Pan-African movements, the New African Independence movement, the Rastafari movement, to whom I'm no stranger to. Mm-hmm. And, you know, our elders have already said it all, especially Baba Mukasa.
Yes.
There's not much more that we can say. The only thing that I would like to add is that two things. Mm-hmm. As Queen Harriet Abubakar had mentioned, it was an extraordinary moment when the president of the Commission of the Alliance of Sahel States,
yes,
you know, those countries are Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali. Mm-hmm. It was extraordinary when he said that when he went to the United Nations, you know, he explained to us that they were prepared to die, to sacrifice their life. And this was also the same feeling when U.S. AFRICOM Commander General Michael Langley had targeted President Traoré.
Yes.
And he acknowledged that it was our protests, our standing up in all the regions, African people everywhere, at home, abroad, that it was us standing up and protesting that provided them the protection that caused them not to do to President Traoré what they had done to Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Malcolm X, and a whole heap of others.
Yes.
So that acknowledgement, they realized that our protest, our consistent force, is viable political help and protection to them.
Brilliant.
And that was extraordinary.
Yes, and we're happy to hear that on the island. You know, we took to the streets, and we're very happy for that feedback. What that says to us is that sometimes we should feel these things in spirit, you know, and know when it's time to move. So we did that on the ground here on the island and across the world, as you very well know. Where do you go from here? What is next?
So, again, part of the purpose is to link our struggles. All of those that are fighting for a one united Africa, for self-determination, that's happening right here in the Sahel region, but it's also happening where we live in the Caribbean or for the United States, for example. And on July 4th, attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz and other forces have launched this Black Summer 2025 campaign.
Yes.
To use our voice to say, you know, we are standing up to exercise our right for self-determination. We are fighting against foreign alien domination. And so for the Africans on the continent to also stand up for us, be aware of our struggles as well.
Yes,
and so this is how we are uniting all the forces. And that's next on the agenda.
All right, brilliant. And we're totally out of time, so we're going to have to wrap. So let me just go back quickly. Thank you so much. But let me just go back quickly to Oli, just to wrap up. Oli Matatal, you there? I think we lost them, because I heard that beep.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay, great. So, Oli, we have just a minute. Is there another person that's there with you that we can say hi to quickly? And
yeah, I wanted to say hi to the doctor. We have a doctor in the house. Her name is Tahida.
Yes.
And she is the logistics person for July 4th.
All right. So
thank you.
Greetings, Sister Tahida. Well, let us go quickly into it, only because we have just a minute left. But so what I'm going to ask you to do is to talk about July 4, because I know that is another step in this process.
Absolutely. It's actually the pinnacle of our stay here in Burkina Faso, and that's to bring at least 50 delegates from Burkina Faso and across the Black world. We're uniting to declare independence from neocolonialism and white domination, in which Baba Mukasa expressed very eloquently, and that we're standing together in support of a United States of Africa.
Yes.
And also, as Afro-descendants, the descendants of enslaved Africans, we're demanding full and complete reparations for Afro-descendants in the West, in solidarity with reparations for colonialism in Africa. So we're all in this together. It's all the same fight. And so on this day, we are declaring our independence on July the 4th.
Okay.
As the Black Independence Day, Black Summer 2025. And we're just honored that we can be a part of it.
And Kabul, you're on the flyer, right?
I see that I'm on the flyer. I see
and I complained to Malik. I said, it's not enough women. So there's going to be another flyer for over 10, 20 years.
Over 40 years.
Dedicated.
Yeah.
You have been dedicated to pushing the line of Pan-Africanists all over the world. So we will be remiss not to include you.
Thank you so much, my sister. Midasi. We'll talk soon. Oli Matatal, thank you so much for curating this, for making this happen. Enough love to the team, Baba Mukasa. Thank you so much, Elder, as usual. And we'll be linking with you again, just because we need to keep updating ourselves, our listeners, but also to ensure that we're supporting the work as it continues. Thank you so much, my sister.
Yes, and I'm the baby of the group.
I
know.
Want
to tell to all the young people that we got work to do. The young people, I'm the baby. These are 80-year-olds, 60-year-olds. I'm 48. I want to tell to the Sizzlers, the Bounty Killers, the people, all the people of Jamaica, look, we got work to do.
Get on the front.
These elders are on the front line, and they're tired. Yes. We got to step up.
Yes. Well heard, well said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Oli Matatal.
I love you.
Love you much, my sister.
Jamaica. I love you, the world. We love you.
Right back at you. Thank you so much, Oli Matatal.
Africa must unite.
Africa must be free. Valerie Ndienengo Sia Musoka is standing by. She is a veteran journalist, communication strategist, and gender justice advocate with over 25 years of experience working in conflict and post-conflict zones in Africa and the Middle East. From the front lines of Iraq and Somalia to grassroots campaigns in Tanzania, she has consistently used the power of the media to speak up for women and children affected by gender-based and sexual violence. Valerie has held senior roles in with the United Nations, the BBC Media Action, and civil society organizations, and was one of the founding members and executive director of the Tanzania Media Women's Association. As the former chairperson of the Tanzania Ending Child Marriage Network, she led national advocacy efforts that engaged parliamentarians, faith leaders, and Freund Solidarität. All right. So from mentoring young journalists to designing large-scale campaigns in Somalia and Sudan, Valerie remains passionate about communication as a force for healing, justice, and long-term change. She explores the connections between generations, emphasizing the importance of understanding one's roots. And I'm very happy to have our sister Valerie online, Valerie Mukasa, online with us this morning. Good morning, Valerie. How are you doing?
Good morning, Carbon. Thank you very much for this opportunity. How are you there?
I am well, my sister. I'm so happy for you to be online, even though the subject we're talking about this morning is such an egregious one. But I suppose we have to talk about this. One of the things that really got my back up was when I saw a recent report just maybe last week or week and a half ago, speaking to the HIV medication that is now out, 2 injections per year to prevent HIV. But when you read in the fine print, they told you that this was being tested on women in conflict zones, across Africa where sex is used as a weapon of war. And they said that as if it meant almost nothing. I didn't know how to feel about it until I just kind of blew. But I don't know if you've heard about this, Valerie, but this is just to tell us that there is a very wide knowledge of what's happening across Africa and other parts of the world where there is sexual violence used as weapons of war.
Yes, there is. I don't know whether... I think I'll say this. Yes, there is, and yes, no. Because unless what you are doing now, speaking about it, bringing the issue in the media so that people hear and become aware of it, no one will know. Mm-hmm. But if you work in those areas, you come across it. Yeah. So those are the two sides. There are those who know, but those who don't know because they are not aware.
Yes. What prompted you, and I'm looking at your work, it is really broad-based, wide, to focus on this conflict-related sexual violence. You've written about this widely. And what was the most difficult part of, or is the most difficult part of this work?
I'm sure for many who work in the media, what we see is what we tell. Yeah. But also realizing that the power of the media, and that's why in all, the power of the media stands out to me. Mm-hmm. Because I know that right at the beginning, I quote Malcolm X, who said, the media is the most powerful entity on the earth. It has the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, because it controls the masses. Yes. So this is why I use the media. Mm-hmm. But the areas I've worked in, and I say right from back home in Tanzania, where the issue of, let's say, even domestic violence, but we have in Tanzania, we have child marriage, mm-hmm. and we have genital mutilation, mm-hmm. female genital mutilations. These are part of our culture or tradition. Mm-hmm. But to me, the thought of a 9-year-old girl getting married to a 34, 35-year-old man, mm-hmm. I didn't sit well with me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't like that. Yes. But then you come to conflict areas where I've worked, you find that the most vulnerable are women and girls. They are the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And even if you leave the conflict areas, you go to the camps for displaced people, again, it's the women and the girls that are vulnerable, mm-hmm. because it's their bodies. Mm-hmm. If a woman is the soldiers are passing through, they will rape the women. Mm-hmm. And if I'm looking at the issue of Congo, DRC Congo, you'll find that they rape a child who is probably under 1 because of the innocence. Mm-hmm. They get the innocence. I don't know how you get an innocent while you're already killing. Mm-hmm. But then they rape women as old as 80 to get the wisdom. You're already killing, and everybody has to say something. Yes. And I'm fortunate. I'm in media. So that is why I use the media.
Why do you think that it is so underreported in the media? Sometimes we feel as if we're fighting for just for the media, just for the owners of media to pay attention, for advertisers to pay attention.
No, it's not only for advertisers. I think your program today will raise that issue. If it hasn't been spoken, people will speak, because you know that the media is an agenda setter, so people will speak. But it takes more of us to talk about it, and more of us to sensitize the communities so that they listen. Because when we look at these issues, it's not only that rape is happening, but it is a system. Yes. If rape is happening or the person is abused, and I'm sure it's the same in Jamaica, if the person who has perpetrated the crime, no action is taken, then the crime continues. So when we speak about it, we advocate so that people listen. But when people listen and awareness is raised,
yes,
what is going to happen next? Yeah. So that is what, when we talk about it, people will ask, but if this is happening, why is no action? So the more people ask for action, then people will start calling for action. And then the people in the army themselves, then there will be rules and regulations that being a soldier does not mean you have to rape. So these mechanisms will be put in place.
Yes.
So if there are no mechanisms, crimes will be committed with impunity.
One of the things that you have written about and continue to write about is that you're highlighting the gaps in legal definitions of rape across African countries. Can you help us, our audience, to understand why updating these laws is more than a symbolic step?
Updating laws is recognizing that, sometimes when, for example, I'll give this. In a marriage, I'm talking of the African context where I come from, it didn't need, a husband didn't need to get consent. It was his right to sleep with his wife. So now, years later, we're saying, no, it has to be consensual. The woman has to also agree. And this is very hard for people back home to say, what? Come on, I paid the cows, I paid the camels, and then you are telling me I have to ask what I've already paid for? But no. So if we don't change this, it doesn't help.
Yes.
And I do know in Tanzania, we actually fought for rape to be criminalized because it was not seen as such. And that's why, for example, now the United Nations have sort of put 19th of June as the day to commemorate sexual violence and conflict. Why? Because they recognize that there is this issue.
Yes.
So as we go, we keep on, and I'm sure, as in everything else, some things that maybe were deemed cultural, traditional, then they are saying, no, this is not right. So we have to change to embrace the change that has happened and that this was not right. Because you have to understand that the dynamics of gender and equality are also changing. So that also is reflected in the laws, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But
yes,
the law is different. Implementation is another thing.
Is another thing. Zones. And what role do you think customary laws, religious denominations that you belong to, or local norms play in either advancing or obstructing justice for survivors of CRSV?
All right. In areas of conflict, and also in peaceful, because I can always relate to where I come from, tradition plays a role.
Yeah.
If I look home and across, let's say, Somalia as well, and in most countries where religion is a driving force, girls are married young. in their cases up to 9 years where they're married. Yeah, and if you look back, where I was also young, they'll say that it is because of protecting the girl. When the girl comes to menstruation, that means her body is ready so she can get married. So for some, as soon as you hit your menstruation, your periods, you're supposed to be getting married. But that was before girls went to school. So then you sort of say, okay, she's not going to school, but now a girl is going to school. Why should she go? Why should she get married? But then there is that we have the patriarchy where the man is supreme and the man makes law. Yes. And what the man says, that is it. So that is one thing that when in Tanzania I was working with elders, traditional leaders, getting that across, that some things have a time bad. It's done. So when, for example, now when I come to places where religion really holds and the woman is not supposed to basically not be seen or heard, although she's supposed to be present, it's very, very hard to talk, for example, in Somalia, talking about child marriage or talking against FGM. These are taboo subjects. Yeah. But I've worked with women organizations in Somalia, media women organizations, to try to see how do we lighten this that is seen as both traditional and religious, to say it is wrong. It was maybe something that was put in place. I'll bring a very light thing that I always make a joke of, which in such a subject shouldn't be. What I understand, when I was growing up, I was told, don't eat eggs. If you eat eggs, your child will be born bald. So we didn't eat eggs because no one wants the child to be born bald. Yeah. But we grew up in the village. There were no midwives. And I came to understand later that it was because if you eat eggs, your child becomes healthy and grows big. But when it comes to give birth in the village with no midwife, it becomes things of survival. Yes. It's either the child dies or the mother child's in the way out, because if it's too big and the mother is small, there's no cesarean section. So the only way to put in place a thing that would make them accept is say your child will be born bald. After you have given your child, says, oh, it was because of this. So, but with FGM, I'm sorry to say this, why are you cutting up a piece of meat? Or because at that time we were supposed to be virtuous, you're not supposed to go with the men. Nowadays I ask myself, Mom, because I come from that tradition, Mom, if I'm not supposed to be going out, why is the man going? So this gender imbalance, but how do we make it acceptable that we don't need FGM anymore? How do we make it acceptable that we don't have to marry when we are 9, 10, 11 years old? But now when you come to conflict areas, how do you, for example, in camps of displaced people, where if I want rice, I have to...
for public education and the role that media plays in this. Many countries have signed international treaties, but are still struggling with implementation, as you said before. What do you see as the most urgent legal reform or any other kinds of reforms that African states must prioritize? I'm saying African state, but we are seeing similar things, say, in Haiti right now and parts of Latin America and other parts of the Caribbean. So I suppose if you could generalize as much, but specifically in those areas like the DRC and areas that you have been writing about in your articles, our listeners just need to know to check you out, because you have been writing about so many of these countries: the Central African Republic, Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Sudan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, of course.
So you're asking what needs to be put in place?
Yes. In terms of prioritizing, it seems as if it's just so much, but from your own perspective.
The thing is, if we recognize that there is this problem, what are the mechanisms that we are putting in place? And are they being enforced? Because you just said, putting a law it's okay, but are we implementing them? And when we make these mechanisms, my issue here, prioritizing, we need to have the survivor-centered programming.
Yes.
Not you, Kabu, and I, who report. Those who have experienced, they need to be listened to. And then as bodies, because if Jamaica doesn't work against what is there, then the neighbor won't work. But if it starts working and it works with the neighbor, and together they have concrete enforcement, monitoring, and frameworks at work. So we need to put mechanisms, making sure that if I am reporting I have been sexually abused, the perpetrator is taken into account. Even if he's a minister, even if he's a minister, even if it's the president. Because if he's not, most of us say, if he can do it, then I can do it. So my issue is putting mechanisms where the survivor, I don't want to call these victims, where the survivor is taken into account.
Yes.
And the perpetrator, So we can put laws, but with me it's implementing the laws. That to me is very, very important. It's implementing and having bodies that acknowledge, because we have these international treaties. We have them. We have them, as you said, of which all our countries have signed.
Yes.
But how are they implemented in the countries?
And that is a question, isn't it? The UN, and you mentioned this before, that the United Nations has designated June 19 as the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. Just looking back, in your view, what is the significance of this day for Africa specifically? But are governments engaged with this or not? What are you noticing in terms of African governments, institutions, and for the international observance of this? Is there any level of engagement?
Yes, there is, because you'll find that now the United Nations has an envoy to look into these issues of sexual violence. The African Union also has an envoy on issues of women, peace and security. So there are bodies of this thing. But having bodies, again, I'll go back. Having body is one thing. But these the institutions now within the countries need to be strengthened, so that lawlessness, impunity do not continue. So I always say you might have the president, which is good. You might have the ministers, which is good. But do the ministers know what is happening? In the African context, from a very young age, the boy child is thought to be superior, or is thought to be superior. If you tell my mother now in the village for my brother to go and fetch water, my mother will raise a riot. She says, what is this? And we say, Mom, it says, and when we try to tell her, Mom, why can't he go? She says, he's your brother. I said, yes, he's my brother. Why can't he fetch water? So that is, we celebrate this girl to say from the early age, let us all be equal. So it is, and me, maybe because I've worked with the UN and I've worked on these issues of women, peace and security, these days are sort of embedded. So now you, Kabu, have that task to carry on.
Yes, and let me and I accept it wholly. And I know there's so many of our listeners who are thinking, but I have a role to play in this. This is part of my purpose. Let me get on board. But let us talk about grassroots organizations and sometimes the survivors themselves. Let's say focus on grassroots organizations. What role can they play in? And I'm speaking specifically to this day in amplifying this day and the African experiences. Speak to our grassroots organizations, because we've got many on the island.
All right. The thing is, with grassroots organizations, these are like a thorn in the government system. Because these are the ones, when we talk of grassroots, they are there. They really come across people, the survivors. They get the testimonies. They are told what is really happening sometimes in real time. Yeah. When I was talking about FGM in Tanzania, I came across where, because the people were so aware of it and becoming vigilant, people were giving money to the nurses so that as soon as the girl is born, they do FGM right there in the hospital. So, but people spoke against this. So when you speak, they get the stories.
Yes.
They also help break the stigma. I don't know how it is in Jamaica, but in some areas, when you are raped, you don't talk about it. You keep quiet because you become like, oh, that one was raped. So no one wants you.
We're seeing a change in Jamaica. We're seeing a massive change. So we're getting more reporting. But rape, sexual violence, incest, cruelness, if you will, cruelty against our girls, our babies are being raped violently on the island. Rape in conflict, gang wars, you name it. This is something that is not talked about, this specific one. How rape is used in tribalism and gang wars and that kind of a thing. We have a transnational organized crime on the island in Jamaica, human trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that. But not much is being said about this on the ground. So this is where the secrecy is. This is where it's as if it's not happening. It's just covered over.
Yeah. Usually that's the case when it comes, because for example, when you say this gang-related violence, it's like let's say in the Congo, it'll be a gang of soldiers raping maybe one girl, whatever. But that girl will not report it because if the gangs are still there, there might be repercussion.
Yes.
It's like at home nowadays we say, oh, when an uncle comes, don't let the uncle sleep near the girls, whatever, because he will tell the child that he's abusing, that if you tell, I'll kill your mama, and the girl will keep quiet. So, but the awareness, what is gender-based violence? Do people know?
Hold that question. Hold that. I'm going to have you answer that when we come back. Let me take legal and constitutional affairs. Thanks to the ministry for sponsoring this hour. All right. So, what is gender-based violence? Valerie, sorry.
When we talk of that, it is violence inflicted against women.
Yes.
Yeah. It affects women disappropriately. And we are not talking of me beating you up, whatever. When we talk of it whole, there is also economic, there is, emotional, but in this case we are talking of violence. Yeah? That we're taking any act of gender-based violence that results or is likely to result in physical, sexual or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats, coercion, deprivation of liberty, whether it's in public or in private. That is gender-based violence. So people need to understand that.
Yes.
Yeah? Even when I'm threatening you, that is gender-based violence. And that's why we say even child marriage is gender-based violence, because there is no consent.
Yes.
We're talking of FGM, there's no consent. So, but then when it becomes in conflict and its manifestation, 4 men raping 1 girl, and then in gangs using that as like a stick, they know that if I know if that gang comes to me, Valerie,
yes,
they will do this to me. So I'll do what they want to do, what they want me to do because of that. So they use it also as a weapon.
Yes.
Something to hold over me.
Gang initiation and so on. What I want, my sister Valerie, is that in our next conversation, and I hope you can come back soon, we'll pick up from here to speak specifically of gender-based violence and to carry this home, because this is something that we're all going through on the island here in Jamaica. This is a big thing. Because of the transnational organized crime that we see burgeoning in the region, this is the Caribbean and Latin America now. This is also something that we're experiencing, sex trafficking, human trafficking, and so on. And obviously, we've looked at the continent of Africa just briefly now, and this obviously is something that is happening also there. So wherever we are, and this is where I want to go next, to kind of take it home to what we are experiencing here on the island that other women are also experiencing. I'm going to give you a final word, though, before you go, even though I'm getting the wrap up.
Thank you very much, first of all, for this opportunity to talk, because I know the more we discuss the issue, the more awareness.
Yes.
So this is an opportunity for all of us to talk, to raise the awareness. I come from Africa, and you have the African saying, Ubuntu, we say,
yes.
I am because you are.
Yes.
So for you to talk, you are protecting me. Mm-hmm. And for me to talk, I'm protecting you. Mm-hmm. So together, with each voice, one voice, let us all rise up against these things that take place in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my sister Valerie Msoka. Thank you very much. Your articles are online. People can find you online. Quickly tell us where.
They can be found on Africa Briefing magazine. So once you click africabriefing.com, you will find me there. And then also I have a newsletter called Binti Africa, which talks about African women and things that are happening there that are usually not in the news. So you can get that also on Binti Africa Connect, but also my articles are on africabriefing.com.
All right. Thank you so much, my sister. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. Sister Valerie Msoka there, really helping to open this space, an enlightenment. It's a space we have been operating in for a very long time, having the conversation. And I welcome Valerie's perspective and her knowledge, her knowing of the issues that we've raised many times in this space, but now getting it from the expert, if you will, getting it from the source. She has done so much. She's been to the areas, and she's come back with the knowing, the knowledge, and can help us to understand, but also how to be part of the change. And technocracy and transhumanism. So to put things in perspective, we recognized early in the COVID pandemic or plandemic, we recognized very early that this was part of a global reset. And so when we did the research, we found out that they were actually using the term global reset, that this was articulated through the Charles Schwab at the World Economic Forum, and Charles, who at the time was, Prince. He was Prince Charles. So they've been talking about it for a while. What they did for the reset to happen, they had to lock the country down, the globe down for 2 or 3 years, and they did that. The whole process, I'm not going to go over all the conversations we had, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, because we've been talking about this for years. What we are seeing now, though, is some of what we have been saying, that the reset includes a few things. And one, of course, is to take it into the next world order, the new world economic order. We talk about the need to crash the US dollar. We talk about the change that we're seeing happening from the baton passing from the United States to China. The United States is crumbling into ashes and China is rising like a phoenix. This is basically what is happening. So we're witnessing this in real time. So we have had many conversations about this, but we said that the rules of the new world order, the new world economic order, were different. So they're different from the neoliberalism, different from the capitalism 2.0, different from what they call democracy. And basically what we're going to see would be technocracy, and tethered to technocracy would be transhumanism. If you listen to the interview between Peter Thiel and I can't remember the name of the person, but it's the New York Times, I think, that did that interview. He was asked, Peter Thiel was asked, by the way, a name that you should know is Peter Thiel. And we've been talking about Peter Thiel in this program from before 2018 because we saw him coming, right? So you talk about Elon Musk, but you must talk about Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is Palantir. And we'll talk about that another time. But we've been telling you, look up Palantir. Just like we say, look up BlackRock. Palantir is critical to your understanding of what is happening, where we're going, and how we're going. So in this interview with Peter Thiel on the weekend, we saw where he was asked the question, a simple question, about should the human race survive? The New York Times asked him that. Should the human race survive? He couldn't answer the question. And then after he fidgeted, he talked about, he used the word transhumanism. He said, transhumanism is the idea where human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And this is where he's going. Why is Peter Thiel important? Peter Thiel is important because he's guiding the process in a serious way. Palantir is guiding the process. Palantir is Palantir Technologies is a $22.3 billion US dollar. Not Palantir, but Peter Thiel himself is worth $22.3 billion US dollars. And what they deal with is drones and data mining and hypersonics and artificial intelligence and human machine systems. They work with the CIA, the FBI, the DHS, the NSA. They do mass surveillance and so much more. So much more. So I have to find another time to talk about Peter Thiel. Let me take Inventors Draw. Let me quickly tell you about the Detachment 201. Detachment 201 is what is really taking us into the next phase of the Great Reset. We told you it is well underway. We had the COVID lockdowns and the vaccines. We had the ushering of the AI and technocracy and the reset of the global economic order. So the COVID lockdown and the vaccines, that's gone. So the AI was ushered in. Now we see technocracy being ushered in, and we're also seeing the reset of the global economic order happening at the same time. The new thing that we missed, and we missed this because everybody was talking about Iran and Israel, but the U.S. Army has launched what it calls Detachment 201. It is also known as the Executive Innovation Corps, and they say this is to bring senior tech talent to the Army Reserve. So the first 4 reserve members are all commissioned as lieutenant colonels, and they are Shiman Sankar. Shiman Sankar is not a soldier, but he's a lieutenant colonel right now. He is the CTO of Palantir, right? The CTO of Palantir. Andrew Bosworth is not a soldier. Andrew Bosworth is a tech bro. He is a CTO of Meta. Meta, meaning Facebook and all of them, Instagram and so on, YouTube, Meta. Kevin Whale. Kevin Whale is not a soldier. Kevin Whale is a chief product officer at OpenAI. OpenAI, ChatGPT, Sam Altman. Bob McGrew is not a soldier. He's a lieutenant colonel, though, in the Army Reserves now. They were made this just last week. He's advisor at Thinking Machines Lab and former chief research officer at OpenAI. This is the next step. So Detachment 201 is designed to leverage private sector expertise to supercharge the modernization efforts of the Army. So they're making it leaner, they're making it smarter, and they're making it more lethal. The members will advise on scalable technology solutions, including next generation command and control, human-machine integration. Write that down and look it up. Human-machine integration, logistical efficiencies. I told you the word efficiency don't mean efficient anymore. It means a whole other thing. It means technocracy. And artificial intelligence systems, AI systems. So these tech bros, who are now lieutenant colonels, who are heading up their own department within the U.S. Army, Shaman Sankar of Palantir, Andrew Bosworth of Meta, Kevin Whale of OpenAI, and Bob McGrew of Thinking Machine Labs and former OpenAI. They are the brains of artificial intelligence who have been now placed in a position where they head an entire department of the United States Army. This is what technocracy looks like, and this is how we leap into transhumanism. So Detachment 201 is designed to leverage private sector expertise to supercharge the Army's modernization efforts. Each executive branch brings deep tech experience and a strong track record. So we have Sankar. Sankar is the one who co-authored a defense reformation essay and helped secure massive military contracts for Palantir. Do not go anywhere today without doing your research on Palantir, Palantir, because that is the beast. Or at least it is one leg of the beast, a massive leg, or probably the brain of the beast. All right, Bosworth built Meta's AI, which is artificial intelligence, and Reality Labs. That's Bosworth, the other Lieutenant Bosworth. He's the one that built Meta's artificial intelligence and Reality Labs. And distinguishes this role from Meta's other partnerships and the XR Tech. So Lieutenant Whale, he, since joining OpenAI in 2024, has led production efforts and was part of a $200 million Defense of Department artificial intelligence contract. Listen closely and carefully. Lieutenant Colonel McGrew, he helped develop major artificial intelligence systems at OpenAI, and he now advises an up-and-coming AI startup. So it's interesting. Detachment 201 marks a significant shift. So what they're doing now is that they're embedding to Silicon Valley minds into the military structure. So the technocracy is taking shape. These technicians, these technocrats who are the arbiters and the architects of transhumanism, human-machine integration, brain-machine interface, they are the ones who are now being embedded into the U.S. military structure, not just as consultants. They are commissioned officers. So this is a big deal. We must pay attention here. The horse has gone through the gate. There is no pulling this back. Peter Thiel of Palantir, he doesn't believe that people should die. He doesn't believe in death. Listen to the interview he did last week with the New York Times. He says that he doesn't see why people have to die. And there is something that can be done to prevent death. What is that? Human-machine interface. They are already doing it. Elon Musk is doing it at Neuralink, right? Peter Thiel has gone way beyond that in terms of what can be done. This is what we call transhumanism. Understanding that transhumanism have nothing to do with your sex. It's not sexuality, right? People are mixing this up with transgender and trans. The word trans is getting people confused. And Peter Thiel himself is saying that people get confused with this. But basically what it is a human-machine interface, a human-machine integration, which means that you move from this human form into a superhuman form where you and the machine are one, and they are already doing that. They're already doing that. So you are now a machine. And this is why they're taking it to the army. This is why they're taking it to the U.S. Army. So here we go now with the two things coming together all at once, transhumanism and technocracy. So So we see the technocratic governance and the military efficiency, where the tech execs are being brought into the army to inject private sector innovation and decision-making models that favor what they talk about all the time, data-driven, non-democratic governance. And this aligns with technocracy, where technical elites, technocrats like these tech bros, not elected officials, they shape the policies and the implementation based on the data, based on the algorithms, based on what they call efficiency and control systems. This is what we're faced with now. And we're seeing the rise of the AI and enhanced command structures. This is frightening, you know. This is frightening. U.S. Army seeking to integrate autonomous decision-making, predictive logistics, and they're talking about predictive policing already, which is what Peter Thiel is all about. He talked about that before. We brought that to you a few weeks ago. Now we have machine-led governance. This is where everything is going. We can get bogged down with the tribalism and who is going to win the election, you know. But honestly, we need to move from right there, sir, because whether PNP or JLP win this election, it is going to be what it is going to be. It is the same thing. And we are what you need to do is to begin to ask the politicians how they differ. I want every politician to tell me how you differ from that one, your counterpart. How do you differ? Because believe me, they do not differ. Listen to what Mark Golding said about the beaches last week. He said that he's going to work with the hotels because you can't work against the hotels about the beaches. If you work with the hotels on the beaches, you're no different from Andrew Holness. It's the very same thing he's doing. So what are you doing? What are you saying? It is, how do they differ? They do not differ. They are in capitalism 2.0. They're talking about the neoliberal agenda. That's where they are. But believe me, we are beyond that. Let's go to Cashpot. Siberia Director of Forward Thinking is in the house to talk about what's coming up July 6th, what we can expect this year, what going on in Portland, Somerset Falls, and all of that. So this year, I noted that we have a very special element added to it. I don't know if you've had it before, which is the book signing element, right?
Yes.
So, but let us start right there. So.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So good morning to the whole family listening. So this year we decided to add something different. You know, I have to give a big up to iNation, who's been helping me being on the ground in Jamaica, doing a lot of the work and a lot of the promotion. So we had decided, you know, Forward Thinking is special and we have lots of things that other people don't have, but books and reading is really important. So we wanted to bring in some authors and have them do a book signing. And
iNation is there every year with his books, right?
Yes.
But this time, the authors of some of the books that he's selling will be literally on
site,
so,
and they'll be doing signings and a special book reading because, you know, specifically of someone reading a children's book there. I think that's really important.
Yes.
When both of my kids were young, we used to go to book readings on Saturday mornings, and they would sit and they would hear somebody read the book. And it's, you know, unsung heroes, people who write these books that people don't really know about. They know about the famous authors. So we really wanted to do something that would bring in a little new kind of flavor and have people be able to talk about why did they write the book? Why was it important? Why is it important for you to read? And be able to have a little discussion with the author. So yes, something that's new this year. Each year we try to add something new.
Yeah, that's true. I really love it. Yes. And so some of the authors who will be there this year are.
All right, let me see. We have Sister Mitzi will be there.
Yes, I saw that. I said I don't know Sister Mitzi's book, and look at the book. Sister Mitzi, we'll talk about the book.
Exactly. So Sister Mitzi will be there. Yes. We also have I made a note of the other new person who was reading. She has a book on how to use social media. Yeah. And her name is Dr. Elaine Williams Morgan. She will be there as well.
That's really critical. How to use social media.
It's about using social media. I think it will be a really good tool because, and I say it's added, we have a little bit of another extra flair this year. We're going to have free Wi-Fi for patrons with a partnership with this new entity called Flash. So, yes, I feel like it's going to be a good partnerip to have.
Your phone.
Exactly.
Because we have to take with videos and wait till we reach home to post them. We go by the data and not the prepaid, not the postpaid. So, but you also have Bev Carey,
yes.
right?
Bev Carey will be there, and she'll be doing a reading and talking about.
I'm really looking forward to that because we use. Well, I don't know if did you use that big book in school?
Yes.
That's a big book.
Yes, that textbook was so heavy.
Yeah, that Maroon story.
The Maroon story. Yes.
So I'm looking forward, and she's been on this program many times over the years. She used to be my go-to resource person.
Interesting.
In the 90s.
Yes,
so people know that.
Yes.
Yeah, she was always here. So I'm looking forward to seeing her again and to hearing from her. But okay, so that's a new edition this year. Take us through what will be happening on the ground.
Yeah, so on the ground, I mean, I think if you've been to Fusinting, I call it like it's just a vibe. There's no other way to really describe it. So as usual, we'll have Turboplastic, we'll have Kumina, and I have to say that the joining of Turboplastic and the Kumina is my favorite part of Fusinting.
I know.
That always jump in.
Don't I see you?
Always jump in.
As a matter of fact, you have some of the highest views on my Facebook page.
That's my favorite part.
My TikTok. Yeah, is you that?
Yes, that's my favorite part. Yes. And then, at the 10 a.m. with the Jankuda coming into the grounds, I always say, at that moment, you can feel the spirit of the ancestors just on the ground. When the Jankuda is coming in, I think it's such a great feeling. Yeah. Sister Amina, as per usual, is going to be doing her stories and her children's stories. Muta with the African dance party, as usual. How that party nice. You see all these people coming in them fancy clothes, dropping legs. That's I love it,
special. Oh goodness, I really love it. And I love the idea of the storytelling is such a critical part of this. Sister Amina Blackwood Meeks have been doing this for so long.
Yes.
And she comes every year. Yes. And every year, you see the people, especially children with their mouth literally open because she does that kind of thing when she's telling story that you literally find a jar, drop a loop on her, like, we must have to shut your mouth.
Definitely.
Yes. And then Muta, of course, with the African music.
Yes.
I'm not dancing with this year either, Muta. I'm coming, but I will not be dancing.
That's what you say. And then I get drawn out.
I'm not dancing. Look at Emma asked me, why can you come check me? Why can you come? I said, Muta, but you've got so many fans around you.
It's true.
I mean, I come and you don't even know that I'm there.
You're always there. You're always there. And then we have, as usual, Neto and Jinsu, who really does the poetry. And I think one of the things that we really try to do is have young poets come up and be able to kind of showcase their talent. And then the night, Jungle King with the African.
Okay, we lose you. So bring the microphone closer to you, and then because so bring it closer to you. I turned it off. All right, so we're talking about Fusinting.
Yes. So we have Jungle King, and then Jimbe drumming, Nyabingi chanting. As per the Nyabingi chanting is another very special part of it. Yes. And we always try to do an ancestral tribute. And this past year, we lost Mama Fire, who has been with the Fusinting family for, I think, from the beginning, almost up in the hills. So we're going to do a tribute to her this year.
Oh, brilliant.
And then, we have the vendors. We have craft, food, plants, and then we have the book readings and the book signing. Yeah. And then... I think this is one of the main things I always say about Fusinting. It's a family affair. And it's something where we've been looking kind of at how we're trending, and we're trending in such a younger demographic.
I noticed.
Have you noticed
I've
that?
Noticed that. I sat last year and I said, goodness gracious, this is what any organizer would be proud of.
Very
should
much
be proud
so.
of. Which the youth attendance to Fusinting is phenomenal. Yeah.
It really, when we started, or even when we were in Nature's Way, that was not the case. I used to say it's mama and mom's friends. And now, I think...
You're so wicked. wicked girl.
But no, it's people bringing their
because
families.
That would include me.
No, you're in the middle.
Okay,
you're in the middle.
I'll go with that.
Yes, you're in the middle. But we have, young people coming out because I am now in the middle.
Welcome.
But I think being here sometimes there's not a lot that you can do in Jamaica. You can bring your family, you can bring your kids to, and you know that it's going to be a safe space. So, I'm very grateful to everybody who's been a part of it. And I'm so very, very excited to see the demographic trending younger.
Yes.
Because I really think for me, this is about the preservation of culture.
Yeah.
Mama's been doing this for a very long time. And
34 years at least.
Yes. Yeah. And then, taking up the mantle of this, I think it's been really important to honor that work that she has done over these years and the people who have been on that journey with us. But also look forward to the future generations and thinking about how do I pass this on to my family and pass this on to my kids. And, we wouldn't be here without the partnership with Irie FM. I think it's been so integral to having you being here from day one. Yes. And just, I think sometimes people see things happen and they come and they see the day and they don't remember all the things that have gone into putting it together.
Well, Mr. Young, and give him the credit for that. Mr. Young, from day one, knew that this was something he should support. Then Chad came in and had the very same feeling. Then Debbie and Duor came and had the very same feeling. And this speaks to the authenticity, though, of the brand of Fuisington.
Yes, I think it does. It definitely does. And, we have moved to multiple different locations, and then we came to Somerset and Somerset Falls. As soon as I get there, I call, I'm going to say, Soup, I'm going to reach. And, everything we need, they're so accommodating and they make sure that we have everything that we need. So I'm just very grateful for everybody along the years who've been really a part of this partnership and making sure that we could be successful. I think it sometimes people don't understand it takes a village. It really takes a village for us to be able to put on an event like this. And I'm so excited about having it.
Me too. You don't talk about the food, but you do know that we're going to have to go there.
Last night, I'll tell you a funny story. Last night I was hanging with the guys who do the work on the day, and one of them said to me, make sure you put on Kabu food,
That's right.
Let me
have his name because he is a friend of mine.
This was Kirk last night. Kirk said, make sure you put down Kabu
Hey, Kirk,
food.
Thank you so much, my darling. We're friends, right? So Dukuno.
Yes.
What you call it, Dukuno Blue Draws Kenke.
Yes.
We're making it from memory. We want some.
Yes.
And then, of course, me fall in love with the roti and the dal and bar.
Oh, miss Porty roti. That food is so good.
I am telling you.
We talked about it last night. We're going to put on your food.
Yes, we need my food. But remember, say about three different...
You're putting two in, remember? You're putting
put on. I forget. So, look here, it is true. I'm going to have a problem, don't you? But we'll work with it. So look here, the roti and look at the dal and bal and the roti. The blue drawers, the kenke, the dokuno, the pudding. Me left out a whole heap of stuff.
So we always have, we have Nadia, we bring our fry fish, and Nadia the fry fish from I think Nature's Way. Then you have Mama talking about generations. Mama Fire daughter come and them have them ital food.
Right.
Yes, we have G Wiz who does food. Right. So it's, anything that you want to eat, you can find it.
Yeah. And Jamaican food and food where you don't eat for a long time.
Exactly.
Because me know enough I will not eat roti and dal and bal for a long time. And enough I will not eat blue draws. So this is basic. So it's really an African marketplace.
Correct.
As usual.
Yes.
With a strong African retention focus in terms of how we slew it, so we take it and we twist it and we turn it and we make it in a food thing.
Exactly.
So
as close. I mean, it's not I always think about, you remember when we go Africa and you go to the African marketplace and how you feel when you walk around, somebody coming, come sister, come here, come there, come there. So I think it's the closest thing that we can get to it. We always have plants for sale, the Organic Growers Association. This year the Institute of Jamaica is going to be there. They reached out to have, they're going to have a stall, and we're going to do, we have, I don't know it's the correct name, but we're having a booth for some blind children. We're just going to come and donate back to the cause. So they could be a part of the day and be able to experience it. And I think, that's really good for us to give back. I think Fuisington, we have it. It's a foundation, and it's always been about giving back to our community and the community that has served us.
It is such a brilliant event on the island. It is the only one of its kind on the island, and it's been around for 34 years. Irie FM is now celebrating 35 years, and I hope that this year, and I hope that for next year, we will be joining you with your 35th anniversary.
Yes, we will be doing. We'll be doing a lot. We'll be doing a lot next year. I think as as you grow, you learn, and we've learned so much. Once we brought it back 3 years ago, we've learned so much.
Yeah, but congratulations, Sobs, because you've done such a brilliant job. You are your mother's daughter.
Thank you.
Welcome to the middle. But if you come in on the middle, that means nobody in the middle. Thank you very much. I'll stay right here and become now. Go nowhere. Right, so I'm in the middle here with her. But really, congratulations on the work that you and the team have been doing. I know Sister P must be very, very proud.
We hope to do our proud. Every time we make a decision, we say, "Boy, what would Sister P say?" I will make sure we try to honor what she would do. We can't do it perfect, because nothing is ever so perfect. What is as much as she would like it.
Yeah. So Funtopia, so when is it going to be again? Tell us the venue, how you get there.
Yes, Funtopia is Sunday, July 6th, Somerset Falls. One thing I want to note that we have a partnership this year with Above and Beyond Tours coming from Kingston. So if you're, because a lot of people have reached out and asked how they could get a ride. So Above and Beyond from Kingston.
And that's on that lake himself.
I'm not sure, this is once again is an iNation partnership. iNation find us a bus.
Okay, all right.
Coming from town. The phone number to call is 445-9180 if you're interested in coming from Kingston, and it's going to be $2,500 and you have your seat on the bus there and back. So we have free parking. This is something else that a lot of people keep asking about, secure parking. There's secure parking for your vehicle.
Because the venue is really big, and there's a massive parking lot.
Exactly. Right across the street. So Sunday, July 6th, adults $2,000, kids $1,000, and as I am supposed to do as my social media person, Alison would prompt me, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. I think I'm very excited. I think this year is going to be special. It's going to be even more special in light of the challenges that we've had as a family this year. So I'm really excited to be here and to be able to celebrate with the Funtopia family. And, life is precious. And every moment that we're here, we're able to celebrate. And I think just thinking about giving back to the ancestors and giving thanks is really, really important to us. So we hope to see a good turnout as per usual. The normal people who is there every single year, I'm not call no name coming and want to forget.
You're getting a serious trouble.
But everybody who is there every year. Yes. And then we're looking for some new faces. We want to see some new people coming in this year because I think each year we just grow bigger and bigger, and I'm very excited.
And the venue is really big. It's at Somerset Falls.
Yes.
So you don't know. I mean, that alone tell you, say, let's go out for a day,
in Portland on a Sunday and have a nice family affair.
And so it starts, gates open at
10 a.m. and we go till about 7, till sundown.
All right.
Yes.
And once again, it is July 6th.
Yes.
I will be there.
Of course.
And so left my food. Hey, Kirk. My brethren. All right, so thank you so much.
All right. Bless, thank you so much.
You're looking good a long time. Last time I see you was when again?
Was for the same thing.
1 year.
Was 1 year ago when I played the coming drum. I sketch you out of the corner of my eye.
I have, so I posted on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram.
I did.
Yeah, I'm telling you. All right, well, drive safely.
All right,
so say hi to Mom.
I will.
See you next week.
All right, take care.
The 6th. All right, so Funtopia is on the 6th in Portland at Somerset Falls. And Irie FM celebrating 35 years this year. As you know, we started in 1990. Some of us were here 7 months before we actually went on air. We started test transmissions in July of, I think it was July of 1990, and then we we didn't have a formal launch, because Mr. Young and the team, which included Clyde McKenzie and Bob Clark and Lloyd Stanbury and Dennis Howard, I think the decision that they took at the time was to have a soft launch, different from the test transmission. But Mr. Young asked me to go up to Akampong and record the sound of the abeng. And so I went and I recorded the sound of the abeng from our brother. I'm going to tell you, it was Colonel... Was it Colonel... can't remember the colonel who... I'm going to remember his name, though. Who literally blew their abeng, and with the others who were blowing their abeng there. And so every 12 o'clock at night, you'd hear the sound of their bang on Irie FM, and that started literally from day one. So I was sent to do that, and then later on I was sent to downtown Kingston to Heroes Park to report on everything that was happening down there. So as part of the soft, not so soft launch. And Carl Young really wanted August 1 to be recognized as a day that Irie FM started. So even though we had the test transmissions and I suppose could have gone on before August 1, this is a day that he wanted to be in record. And the reason for that is because it's Emancipation Day. So these are some of the little anecdotal information that you really don't know. They're factual, but you don't necessarily hear a lot or know a lot. So a few years ago, and I hope it's okay, I had a conversation with some of us, and among some of us who were here before August 1, and just kind of vibing and recalling how this all started. And among those, we had Clyde McKenzie, we had Shane Clark, Bob Clark, Big A, Lloyd Stanbury. So starting today, we'll rebroadcast those conversations. I'm sure we're going to have to go over into next week. But let me see if I got the first one here. All right, yeah. This morning we're talking about Irie FM, the beginning. And so who better to talk about that with than the beginners, those who started the process. Have you ever wondered where the idea came from? How did that take root? What did it come out of? They talk about universality of thought, and so we've heard many persons say this idea belonged to this person or that person or that person. And we are not contesting that at all. Basically, we're talking about universality of thought, but in terms of those who put this idea into reality, those who actualized the idea, those who brought it into form, into being. We're going to be speaking with some of the players this morning, the main players. Regardless of what you'll hear elsewhere, what you're going to hear this morning will be how it is. So that Irie FM has been the leading radio station in Jamaica since 1990. And we continue to be so. Irie, the word itself, while a word that comes out of the being of the Jamaican people, a word that comes out of the very heart of Jamaica's resistance, or Jamaicans' resistance to oppression and to slavery. While it means for many, so many, and it connotates a whole lot, actually. What does it mean? What does it, for you, when you hear Irie, what does it mean? It's just it's been appropriated by many, and we have been accused here at Irie FM of that too. We have had many discussions with the Rastafari community, for example, who have said to us, how come? So what was done in the early days was to understand the word within the context of what and who we are as a people, but also within the context of who and what this particular institution and organization would become and is becoming. And so that the first word in Irie is innovative. So welcome to Innovative Radio for information and entertainment. There you go. It's Irie. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to have a beautiful discussion this morning. So, Bob Clark will join me in studio. Clyde McKenzie will join me in studio. We're trying to get Lloyd Stanbury online, and we hope in later on this morning that Big A will come in a little bit early, because, you know, he relieves me. And we'll have Big A join the conversation. And we're going to be talking, when we talk about Big A, Clyde McKenzie, Bob Clark, myself, and we've just mentioned Shane Clark, you're talking about foundation members of Irie FM. When you talk about Bob Clark and Clyde McKenzie, you're talking about those who were ideating, to borrow a word from Leakim Samaj. So, we look forward to that discussion with Bob and Clyde this morning. I came in 1990. They were talking about this long before that. And the plans were being set long before that. And so when we joined in 1990 to launch Irie FM, they had done a lot of the back work. Clyde McKenzie, Bob Clark, joining me in the studio this morning. We hope to go live to Lloyd Stanberry in Florida. And there's a special guest that we want to bring on later on in the program, and we'll tell you if that guest is available. But as we close off Heritage Month, we want to talk about radio as Irie FM as Jamaica's heritage. How did Irie FM change the media landscape in Jamaica? What role did Irie FM play and continues to play in recreating or resetting the path that Jamaica's heritage and culture was on? And you know, it's very interesting that we talk about this, you know, because we remember that before Irie FM, the voice of the people, which we continue to say is the voice of God, was not necessarily heard on radio to any great extent. So that there was a one voice or two voices, and only a certain kind of person was heard on radio, only a certain kind of music. So on a Sunday morning, for example, like now, you wouldn't hear anything from Africa. You wouldn't hear, on any given day, you wouldn't necessarily hear your voice, your ideas, your thoughts, your challenges, your culture, your heritage to any great extent on radio. Yeah, in a piecemeal way. And so Irie FM has played and continues to play a significant role in the thinking and in the education. And I say re-education because one of the things that Irie FM challenged was miseducation and continues to challenge that of the people. So protest, advocacy, activism, using radio as a medium for cultural change. Irie FM envisioned that, did that, and continues to do that, representing the people at the same time. And so, in a little while, so that we can have Shane Clark go home and get some rest, I'm going to talk to him first, because he's been here since 2 o'clock this morning. And later on in the morning, we're going to be speaking to Bob Clark and Clyde McKenzie. They'll join me in the studio in about an hour. And we hope to go to the phone lines to Florida to speak with Lloyd Stanberry. And then we say there's a special guest that we're trying to get on the phone lines, who was integral in Irie FM coming into being. And we also want to ask you, what do you recall? What do you remember? Were you around in 1990 when it happened? Yeah, it was a big deal. What is your recollection of a station like this, reggae radio, coming on stream, online, in your homes, in your taxis? Remember how Irie FM replaced the tapes? The taxes. That was another thing. Wow. There's so much to remember. All right, so we're going to ask you. So we're going to open the phone line somewhere just before 7. And if you recall anything, tell us what you remember. Call us if you remember, please. If you were there in 1990, lots happened. What do you recall? What do you remember? This is how we're going to be doing it this morning. What's happening? So we're doing the rebroadcast of a program we carried a few years ago with talking to the principals, the foundation of Irie FM. And as we celebrate 35 years come August 1, the activities have already kicked off. We are looking back to go forward, literally Sankofa-ing. So we return to this rebroadcast. All right, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. Let's start things off like this. Poetry book, and I wanted to record it. It was jazz poetry. It was meant to be jazz poetry. And I wanted groove music to record it. So I was always saying to Mr. Young, would you please record my music? Would you please record my poetry book? And he always put me off and say, come back another day, come back another day, come back another day. But it's out of that interaction with him, begging him to please record my book, that he told me about this station. So between him and Devon Evans, Devon said talk to Clyde, Mr. Young said talk to Lloyd Stanberry. And so you're going, Mr. Young, right? So I called Lloyd Stanberry, and Lloyd Stanberry said it's Clyde. Mm-hmm. And so Clyde said they wanted me to be the newscaster. You see where I come back from now? Mm-hmm. From my regards in my head. Yes. So Shane, when you came here and saw me reading the news, I said, go.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
That's how it went. All right, I'm so caught up in that story. Let me never hear it yet. Anyway, let's take a quick... All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum as Irie FM celebrates 35 years. We're coming to you a rebroadcast of a program that we did 2 or 3 years ago. Discussion with Shane Clark, Clyde McKenzie, Bob Clark, Lloyd Stanberry, and Big A. We're starting it today. It's going to go over a few programs because it was a pretty lengthy conversation. So let's return to that.
Yes.
So Shane, morning again.
Morning, yes, ma'am.
Welcome. I just situate myself into Irie. No, you situate yourself into Irie.
So
yeah. No, sorry, Shane. Just to let our listeners know that we're talking about the people who were here from 1990, from the minute we went, before we went to test, because there was the test, but then after that, before the official transmission.
Yes.
So there was test transmission, then the official. All right, so. And that would be in terms of those who remain here in the space. That's yourself,
Big A,
Bob Clark,
yes,
and myself. Yeah. So, all right. So, put yourself now. Tell me your story. How did you get here?
For me, well, I was working at JBC.
Yes.
I worked at JBC for just over 3 years, and while I was there, JBC had some regional stations. You had Radio West, Radio Northeast, and
where I worked.
Yes,
but I didn't even know you, Shane.
No, but then I knew 1 and 2 people from some of the places, because like from Radio West, I met Cardell Green, because he would come into Kingston at a main station on occasions, and that is how I also met Clyde McKenzie first.
Yes,
and then Bob Clark, because Tony Young, who is a good friend of mine from I was at JBC, he used to work at Radio Northeast.
Right.
And he worked with Connie and also with...
Connie is a person...
Yes.
Oh, not Connie Witter. What was the other lady's name at Radio Northeast?
Sure.
Okay, all right.
He worked with Connie, and he also worked with Clyde McKenzie. So because of that good relationship that Tony Young and Clyde McKenzie had, Clyde would come into the Kingston
which is
office,
which is really headquarters. Yeah.
And so that was how I met Clyde.
So you guys in Kingston did see we out here as
just a regional station.
Yes.
So I met Clyde, and I found him to be a brilliant and witty person, because Clyde would
don't say that, Shane.
When Clyde came to JBC, he gave us jokes upon jokes upon jokes.
That's true. Yes.
Wit. And so
And he was also a top radio presenter in this area. I mean, on Radio Northeast.
Yes.
He really killed it.
Yes.
I mean, he had it.
Bob Clark then came after, and he came in at one point to do some commercials, some business, and so I had to work with him a bit in the studio, and so that was how I came to know Bob and Clyde.
And Bob was also a presenter at Radio Northeast.
Yes.
That's all.
And so while I was there at JBC, about a year before Irie started, an ad came out in the paper for personnel for this new radio station,
right.
Irie FM. It was actually Grove Broadcasting at the time. We didn't know the name, that it would be Irie FM. And I sent in an application. And a year after, when the station actually started transmission, this was before official transmission, like about in July, I was at home one day and I heard the station playing reggae music, just continuously, hard beating music, cultural music, just reggae music of all forms. And that struck me because I was at a place where reggae music was played, but within bounds. And so to hear a station, playing entirely reggae music, it struck me. And
there was no talk.
No talk. That was just test transmission at the time.
No talk, no ad, just jingles.
Music.
Just jingles and music,
So I called up Clyde to remind him of my application. Yes. And he invited me down to come and see what was happening, and I came down. That was like about the end of July. When I got here, there were other persons who I had worked with and had been working with at JBC. There was Devon Marshall and Dennis Howard.
Yes.
And there was a girl who did traffic at JBC who came down here, Carol.
Yes.
So I felt like, okay, this was a great opportunity for me. And it was.
So did you leave JBC to come here? Or you?
Yes, I did leave JBC to come here. And so at that time, it was like new because I was coming from Kingston. I had only been to Ocho Rios on one occasion prior to that. And an outside broadcast with Tony Young.
Yes.
So it was a new and exciting thing for me. I was young man, about 21, 22 at the time, so when I got here, I was welcomed, and I started out doing technical operations, and also I did that night shift, along with Devon Marshall and Stephen C.
That's a shift that you just came off, actually.
Yes.
Before
the early morning shift.
And at that time, it wasn't 2, it was 1? Was it 1 to 5?
It was 12 midnight to 4 a.m.
12 midnight to 4 a.m.
Yes, and Dion Mattis came on at 4 a.m.
And it's funny, that's a good point to make, because when I started doing the Africa Forum, which was Running African, I started at 4 o'clock. And I had, and that's a little bit after I started here. And I had a challenge as to what to do with that 4 to 5 hour, 4 to 6 actually hour. And I decided that I was going to tap deep into the culture of the Jamaican people, and I draw for some people who read palm and who can look at you and read your face, and who can tell you what your horoscope mean, and who can tell you, and that's where I went to get Jamaican people to come to the space at 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It worked, by the way.
And, also after, as I said, the first thing that struck me before I came was the continuous reggae music. And then after I came, when I went back in whatever communities that I visited and stuff like that, it was like overwhelming because the jingles that we had on Irie FM were very creative.
And talking about very creative, a lot of these jingles made by the very same workers, the very same employees here at Irie FM. I wanted
Stephen Stewart, Barry O'Hare, Yes, those were some of the people who helped in making some of the jingles.
There's one in particular, we still play it a lot, Reggae in the Morning, the song one. Is it here, Shane? Can I find it here? On my computer?
I'll have to come over to look. I think it might be there, yes.
Yeah, no, me can't find it.
And also Zekel. Yes, Zekel was a popular one then, you know, and Reggae in the Morning.
Reggae in the Morning. Let me say this. Engineers on this, some of the top engineers, Stephen Stewart, in Jamaica, in terms of it being recorded at Grove Music, the very same place.
Because the space we're in now was actually the music studio, which was a part of the Grove Empire at the time. Yes.
And the voice, the talent on this. The people who are singing are all... Clyde McKenzie's there too, you know.
Yes.
And Bob is singing too. So Clyde, Bob, and I think Kathy Owen is there singing too. And Dion. So
because they were all created here.
Yes.
By people who were here at the time. Yes.
And so Shane, you talk about coming from JBC in 1990 to be part of what was going to be a revolutionary radio, because that's exactly what it became. We have not seen this kind of revolution in radio in Jamaica since Irie FM.
True.
And so nothing as innovative as this has happened since that time. What we have is... and they say, imitation is flattery, but we've seen the imitation, but nothing as innovative as Irie FM, and it's not because I'm standing in this space, but objectively looking on. And as a young man, because you were pretty young in those days.
Yes,
coming into, leaving everything behind in Kingston, coming here. And you're saying this is because of what you heard, what you felt. You had applied before. But what you heard.
But what I actually heard was what drew me here. Yes.
And the difference between us now is that I was, and this is, this is a weird thing, because when Clyde McKenzie told me that the station was going to be called Irie FM, Irie FM, I was like, wow, Irie, that is so corny. Those are my exact words. Irie. I mean, because you are still stuck in the Eurocentric kind of thing. So even though you're Pan-African from your born, and I'm writing radical poetry and poetry about Africa and so on, you're still not totally, your mind is still totally liberated.
True,
so
not yet liberated.
A station,
still, caught up in the American contemporary music, which was popular at the time.
And so many times on air, Mr. McKenzie himself had to come to me to say, we do not remember now, we're saying Irie FM, we're not saying Radio Irie, because I couldn't come to terms with that either. Radio Northeast, right? Radio Jamaica, or whether it was JBC, for that one. But even with that, Radio Jamaica, Radio 1,
Yes, JBC,
so radio was always before, Radio 1, Radio 2. So Radio Irie, I was always saying on air, and he was at pains to say to me, listen, we are saying Irie FM. And so we knew this, and it for me, the foundation that was set from the day, the thinking in terms of developing the brand, those persons who were leading the process knew exactly what was needed, what they wanted to develop the Irie FM brand, and they did a brilliant job of setting that foundation in the first year, even to the point of saying Irie FM as opposed to Radio Irie. That was quite something. Do you remember anything in terms of how the brand was being developed and what you knew you had to do and what you had to stick to? You were on air 12 to midnight to 4 a.m., but you were also the technical operator who putting the ads on air and creating the ads and so on. What are some of the things you had to bear in mind?
In putting the library together.
Exactly, I remember.
We had got records from all over, but then they weren't in any coordinated order. And so, having worked at the library at JBC, myself and Devon Marshall, under guidance from Clyde, we helped to do that, to set up the library. But for the early days then, for me, it was just like in terms of what we had to maintain, I think it was clear cut that what we were doing was playing reggae music, but then we had little challenges in the early days as to identifying some of our music as to whether it was actually reggae music or not. Because, you know, you have different genres of reggae music. You have the Beres Hammonds from the 70s, like those slow music, which would be probably considered soul music. And you had the dancehall and the cultural. So it was a case and a matter of identifying. So
what I liked, and I'll talk to Clyde when they come in, because what I liked about how that was dealt with is that so something was started, the idea was clear, how the brand developed, there was a lot of flexibility written into it, and the fluidity in terms of defining and redefining as we come up on the challenges. And so that I remember when we had to come back to the table, because remember Big A was playing gospel on a Sunday. What do you play? I mean, at that time you hardly had reggae gospel, and so in terms of how the brand was defined, then you had to think about where would the Jamaican gospel songs fit in, as also where would the Jamaican reggae artist who does other genres types, fit into Irie FM. Yes. And so that those decisions were made and continued to be made.
So those decisions were actually worked out between Dennis Howard, who was the programs manager at the time, and Clyde Mackenzie, who was general manager, and then they would, have discussions.
I remember, Dennis Howard played a pretty pivotal role in my being on air at Irie FM in the way that I am. But I remember that we had challenges, Dennis and myself, conflicts too, when outside of a thinking, I started playing African music. Yeah. Yes. And no, that was a war, really. I mean, that was a tug of war. I remember I'm going to be so young, I was to be so young. Never play African music, sir. Yes. Because, and the idea was, what do you play reggae, African music, Alpha Blonde and Lucky Dube and those artists who are doing reggae, but where did you put Miriam Makeba? And where did you put Seal? So these are some of the questions that I had to answer, and so that then the brand allows itself, because written within the flexibility of the brand, allowed itself for the music created by ourselves from continental Africa, and then so African music gradually
apart.
Yeah. Yes. Even though it was I tell you, Dennis, it was a big fight. Yes. It was tough, But
for one thing that came to me as well too about those early days is how quickly we were recognized across the world, internationally. Because I remember in the first year that we were here, you had radio stations, TV stations coming from places like Brazil, from Spain, from Germany.
All across Europe.
Yeah. All over the world. Yeah. Wanting to know what was this radio station that has come up in Jamaica.
And inviting us, depending on what we did to be there. So we were doing stuff long time in terms of, I went to Italy for another amount of time to work on a radio station in Italy because of that. That they came, they heard us, and because of Running African, I was there. So for me, is that it's a global brand. Yes. And it was always that in the thinking. I was saying earlier that the I in Irie, the first word in Irie is innovative. So what we want to find out, so we were just workers in 1990, Shane.
Yes.
The idea, you saw it a year before in the newspapers.
Yes.
I heard about it in Barbados. This is an interesting thing. This was about to happen. And so people were talking about it like crazy. In the early days when we were doing the test transmission, one thing I remember was walking out to the front steps of Irie FM and seeing the boxes and boxes and boxes of vinyl music coming in, where people were just said, we have music.
People were donating music to us. We got, I remember Stephen C. and Bob in particular people would call us to St. Anne's Bay, to Runaway Bay, various places around and about here in St. Anne. And they would just give us boxes of music that they had, gospel and old hits, you know. So that's how we got a lot of holidays, along with music that had been brought in specifically for the station.
Lloyd Stanbury,
yes, brought in a lot of music from Ras Records, from Mango, you know.
And especially Mango, and you know, Lloyd Stanbury gave me my first African CD, you know, and then called me and asked me, may I play that track there? I was supposed in the CD from Lady Smith Black Mambasa.
Okay, yes.
And I think there's one song that I think he wanted me to play one. There's an a cappella on it that I was supposed to play. But you have Diamond on the Soles of Our Shoes, You Can Call Me Al, African Skies. And so I'm playing it. So he called to say, no, listen. You know, you can't play those. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
Paul Simon. That was Paul Simon.
Yes.
With the Black Mamba.
With the Black Mamba.
Yes.
So I remember that album. Do you know, Shane, that I still have that very same album?
Okay.
I probably have it here today. I play it almost every Sunday morning. So anytime you hear me play Diamond on the Soles of Our Shoes, or Under African Skies, or You Can Call Me Al, you know, or Homeless, I think Lloyd Stanbury said to me, you can play that track Homeless because it's a cappella. And some of these terms, when I heard them, I was hearing them for the first time here at Irie, you know, because even though I was at Radio Northeast, I was in news. And then we did at school too, so I never did it 100%. So, a cappella, for example, I never know that word till now. I'm not lying.
Well, I can tell you that Irie FM opened up my knowledge of music even much more than it had been before. Because it was when I first came to Irie that I knew artists like Lucky Dube. Lucky Dube was there before, but other radio stations, even where I worked at the time, didn't play these artists. We didn't have these artists in our collection. So it was when I came to Irie that I came to realize people like even Lucky Dube, who we played so regular in the early day.
It is, as I said, Irie FM is an institution. If this station was based in Europe, we wouldn't even be talking about awards. I had a conversation with Professor Caroline Cooper recently, and she was saying to me that Irie FM is doing what universities do, and so that in that way we can develop degree courses and she has that thinking, and I'm just saying that it is more than just for entertainment. It is more than, and it is entertaining even while they turn it on. But when you do, there is so much more there. It's a classroom, really.
Yes. The Running African.
And it has been.
And the Cutting Edge.
Even outside of the talk shows, you know, it has been a classroom. Remember one of the things that we were told in the early days by Mr. McKenzie, that this is, I don't know if you were told about, we who were going on air, but you were on air, we were told that this is a small station when we just started out, and there is no reason why each person who works here shouldn't know every single aspect of radio by the time you're ready to leave. And I say, even now to this day, I say that to everybody I interview, everyone I employ, that this is a small station.
So the possibilities are there.
You must learn. You must know everything before you go. Not just because you're coming to read the news. You should, by the time you left, know the board. You must know how to handle a microphone. You must know how to make and mix and add. Because we learned that here. It was part. So for us ourselves, it was a classroom, schoolroom, literally. And it was because of the thinking of those persons who started it.
And as you're saying all that, I can remember Angela Burns. Because Angela Burns was that kind of person.
She was mixing like crazy.
I remember as a technical operator, when she came into the studio, she wanted for me to leave. She was okay helping herself.
Recording, editing. And remember those days we were editing by
reel to reel.
Reel to reel.
Yes.
And you have to use a razor to cut it.
Yes.
And this is, when I have conversations about social media with a lot of persons today, one of the things I keep telling them that, this idea that social media is different from any other media is a joke. Social media radio was the first social media. And this is what we must understand, because it is what it is. Social media. That the word media is a plural of medium. It's a Latin word, and there's nothing to it,
Yes.
And it's a social
and
space.
It's a social media.
And then we who have been in radio for a long time, who have come this far, know that as the technology develops, and as we see the convergence of the digital technologies, that we have to embrace every single aspect and part of it in everything that we do. So that the one person, the one employee, must be able to do everything, including using the digital technologies, which facilitates and enhances the traditional media. Yes. So that social media is no different from any media, the new thinking in journalism is that social media is different, and that is, I think that for us is a critical place. That I don't know how they're doing it at UAE and the other universities, but I know in my studies overseas that they are way ahead of us in the thinking that social media is no different and must not be redefined as a thing by itself.
I think the only difference with traditional media and the social media is just about credibility.
It's basically
you have to ascertain credibility.
Yeah, verify.
And once you do that, then it's about the same. You verify, but you must. It's about the same.
What it is for us now is to verify. Remember, that we used to have to take up the telephone calls and the telephones, and those were the ones with the little circles. And we were calling Nigeria with that because we heard that, that something happened. There might be an election and a new president. How do we get the news? It's a little bit slower than it is today. And so you bypass all of that. You get the phone and you call the Nigeria government office. It took a little while to get you through, and, but you did that. Now you go on the internet and you just go boom, 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 or you go on Twitter. As a matter of fact, if you go Twitter, you're likely to get it faster than anywhere else. So you go and you see it and you say, okay, what do I do now? Let me verify this. You probably still have to make that telephone call, or you try another source, another media source that is credible. Basically what it is, but it's the very same thing.
And as you mentioned that too, Irie has been a part of this social media aspect, as you're saying, since we started. Because I remember shortly after we started broadcasting and we were on air, just a couple months after, remember there was the Gulf War.
Yes. And that's true. We slept literally
1990 into 1991.
Yes, the first George Bush War.
Yes, and so Irie FM was the station at the time because we were transmitting news from the American media, we brought those events
right up
to the people.
And you mentioned Angela Burns earlier. When
the music at the time reflected what was happening.
At the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, we are driven by service excellence. Visit mof.gov.j.
The same show as Big A?
No.
Okay, we show that.
The show at Margaret of it.
Okay, all right. So that's why him give me 5 minutes, so that I know him give me 5 minutes. I mean, ask him for, because I'd be literally telling him, listen, Big A and myself will be chatting until about 6 minutes after 10. So I can take 5 minutes, and he said, well, if you're used to chat, then I can't give you 5, but if you want to take it, then I can't do anything about it, right? Anyway, Lollipop, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Right, what we'll start with. You want me to go to the ads, or what are you starting with? Okay. All right, you're inside. Well, this is how we're wrapping up. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being there. We're celebrating 35 years, and we feel very happy about it. So we take 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, because it's a massive celebration. You listen to the ads. They're all over the place. Join us in the celebrations wherever you are in Jamaica. And Mr. Big A, anyway, you're my brethren. Take care. Walk good. I think, Big A,